some teachers, I mean, the abuse of their power. There's a state school, a primary school in Sydney's North Shore, Linfield Learning Village, that has really been teaching year 5 and 6 students some hardcore politics of the left, of course. This is the way, the hard left. Here is one of the class posters the Daily Telegraph found that the students came up with and displayed in the classroom, full of the kind of race politics and anti-police rhetoric that's been tearing apart American cities. Stop killer cops. White lives matter too much. That's a little bit disturbing. Pigs out of the country. And end white supremacy, as if we've got the Ku Klux Klan running the joint. The Education Minister in New South Wales has ordered a review into those posters, warned teachers not to preach their politics at their students as if they needed to be told. Joining me is child psychologist Clare Rowe. Clare, thanks for your time. Look, maybe I'm being unfair, Clare. Maybe this stuff all, came from the children themselves. I've been thinking about this quite a bit, maybe talking to their parents. These grade 5s and 6s, what do you think? This is them speaking, or are they parroting what they've been taught?
They're parroting someone, Andrew. This is not an original thought by grade 5 or 6, which is 10, 11 years old. So they're parroting someone. We don't know whether that was explicitly taught to them by the teacher. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen today what the learning outcomes were for this project. What was the brief? I don't know what the other children's posters looked like. Amongst those scrawling kind of hashtags there about stop white supremacy was also hashtag save the turtles in the middle of all that, if you zoom in. So that's so again, I'm not sure what the brief was on that project. But anyhow, so not very many things I think shock me these days when it comes to what's going on in our classrooms. But this did today. And I think it's shocking because we've got the actual images here. And I think what's hard to believe is that a teacher, even if we gave them the benefit of the doubt and we said, right, well these students just wrote this and it's come from their parents and they wrote it, how they could think that was appropriate to display and the lack of insight perhaps they had even of their own protection, of their own kind of employment and career to think, well, goodness, I can't put this up and display it because, outrageous. I mean, they just kind of plowed ahead and did that is obscene.
Well, the display of it is a sort of endorsement of that, even if it's not explicit. The fact is, is it actually healthy for a poster like that to be sitting there in the class, stop killer cops, like police are, you can, 1, call them cops and 2, assume that they're going out killing people. And also this other one that didn't get much publicity, white lives matter too much. I mean, excuse me? How can you have that in a classroom?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, where does I saw online today the many kind of comments about this, and the vast majority of people are completely and utterly shocked and calling for, obviously, the resignation of this teacher. There were still some comments saying that, look, in a democracy, if a child writes that, what is that teacher's right to say, well, we can't display that work? Look, this is a much broader, Andrew, issue for me as a child psychologist, where we are seeing the younger and younger children recruited as soldiers in this kind of political and ideological warfare, and we're robbing them of a childhood. And what I want to get across as a developmental psychologist is that there are critical developmental processes that happen in childhood. It is not just about giving children freedom and, a good time. There are processes such as social skills, creativity, problem solving, emotional regulation. There's all these things that are occurring within the brain. And when we introduce concepts that the brain can't deal with, very complex concepts that adults are grappling with, we interrupt those processes for children, creating vulnerabilities of stress, anxiety, poor mental health. I mean, that is what is creating it. And I want my children, as a mother as well, I want my children to go to school to learn the very fundamentals of a good academic education and to start learning critical thinking, problem solving, using topics that they can grapple with at their kind of 10-year-old level. Now, whether that's, something to do with the school canteen and we learned good debating skills around that, great. And then we can use those good debating skills when we're older to tackle these bigger issues. But shoving these issues in front of 10-year-olds...
yeah, someone of different politics to me might say, but listen, we're teaching children to be anti-racist, and you can't start early enough to make them really sensitive to race. To which I might say, you're teaching children to be so paranoid and focused on race, and there's a little anti-white sentiment obviously there as well, but that you're actually risk turning them to racists instead.
Absolutely. I don't have anything wrong with the initial statement that you said there, Andrew, that we need to be teaching about equality and race and on some level. I don't think that these posters were teaching that. I think they were quite racist in themselves. And what are we accomplishing by this? We're making children terrified of the police, anti the police. And I think it was the police minister who quite rightly said, this comes at a time where we're trying to encourage sexual abuse victims to come forward, come to the police, speak to the police.
Correct.
Consent laws. The police are there to help. Speak up, come forward. And yet now we've got children who are anti-police, killer cops, get the pigs out of the country. I mean, this just goes absolutely... I don't see anything good out of this other than terrifying children.
Clare Rowe, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Andrew.